Hey guys, TikTok. We're gonna wait for Dakota to get on here. We're gonna have a little bit of a dialogue about what's going on. I wanted to bring him on, and that way he can kind of control, my discussion. Sometimes I get a little bit off topic, but we're gonna get Dakota on here in just a moment, and talk about where we're at and what we still need to do, guys. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're working on right now. Thanks for joining us, TikTok. Thanks for joining us, Facebook. We're going to talk about steps forward here. It's going to be a little bit of a give donation links. Let me go ahead and as we wait for Dakota to come on, let me go ahead and explain that to you. So as far as donations are concerned, you guys, I cannot have an address. Okay, I can't have an address because that would associate me with the state. So I'm not allowed to carry around any IDs. I'm not allowed to carry anything with an address on it, with a title on it. I don't have business cards. That's all part of what I have to do in order to be able to do the things that I'm doing, so that I can walk into a court and invoke Article 3, because I don't have an attachment or a contract with any state. So for that reason, I only have Cash App, Chime, Venmo, and PayPal, because those don't require an address to be able to open up those accounts. I can't have Zelle, for instance, because that would require a bank account, which would require an address. I can't have an address. I reposted a video just a little bit ago, maybe a week or two ago. It's the one with a white box and a red box on the top of it, and it actually talks about exactly what I do, right? And it says, hey, this is a difficult world to live in, because if you're out driving in a car and you get pulled over and you don't have a license, registration, and that stuff, you're probably going to jail. Well, it's a dangerous situation to be in, but that's what we have to do in order to overcome this situation. That's why I do what I do. So I only have Cash App, Chime, Venmo, and PayPal. They don't require an address. That's why I have them. It's not because I'm a dirtbag. It's because that's what I have to do in order to continue to fight for you guys in the manner that I'm fighting. That's why I only have them. I don't have to have an address to open up any one of those accounts, and so that's the only way that I'm able to operate. They're all exactly the same. It's We Shall Be Free. That's WESHALLBEFREE. We Shall Be Free. Okay, and again, we're still $1,100 short. I'm not giving up hope that I'm going to be on this train at 11:40 tonight, heading out to Sacramento, because I know that it's time. You guys know it's time. I mean, we're running out of time right now. There's a lot of evidence that I got to collect, guys. 500,000 people I got to go and collect evidence from. That's a pretty big task, but we can do it. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that we can do it, and we're going to do it. I just need you guys to understand that I'm going to need support to be able to get going, get started. And so we're still $1,100 short of the number that I was hoping to get, the 1,500. But I'll start if we get just a couple $100 more, as long as I can get the initial rail pass, which will cover 10 legs of this trip. So if I can get a little bit more, I'm going to still start, and I know that as we get moving, as you guys start to see, this stuff happening, as you start to see the evidence coming in, and so on, then I know that you guys are going to continue to support. It's always been that way. Whenever I get going and started on one of these tours around the country, I know you guys have always stepped up and helped out. So here's the situation as we wait for Dakota to come on to act as a moderator. So right now, today, there are 33 states that are refusing to recognize and enforce the body of laws governing the nation, the Constitution of the United States of America. That's a pretty big deal. And so, very specifically, it has to do with the adjudication of crimes. So when the United States Constitution states in Clause 1 of Amendment 5 that no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, that's pretty clear. You must have an indictment by a grand jury before arresting someone and holding them over for a capital or infamous crime. Therefore, when a state, such as the state of Washington, enacts its own provision in its inferior constitution, where it says Article 1, Section 26, it says no grand jury shall be drawn or summoned in any county. Well, that particular provision functions directly to the contrary of the provision of the United States Constitution, which means that we now have a supremacy issue. We must determine whose law is supreme. Is it the state law or is it the federal law? Is it the Constitution of the United States or is it the state constitution? Well, the state constitution, unfortunately, has placed itself in subjection subjection to the United States Constitution, because Article 1, Section 2 of the Washington State Constitution says that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Therefore, the state constitution has already placed itself into a subjection to the United States Constitution. And not only that, but the state of Washington willfully gave up its sovereignty when it chose to join the Union and subject itself to the supremacy of the United States Constitution. Therefore, the state of Washington has no authority to be able to enact its own alternative legislation, substitute it for the guarantees of the United States Constitution, because that would mean that the state laws are more powerful than the federal laws. And we know that that's not the case. To what purpose is the Constitution created? And to what reasons are laws created and reduced to writing if those that are bound to adhere to them are able to exceed those restraints at their will, right? The purpose of the Constitution is to provide an overarching set of laws that connect all the states together. Those states do not have authority to be able to exceed or disregard the laws, because the Constitution is the very restraints that are in place to restrain the state governments. Therefore, the state governments can't exceed those restraints, because that would make the Constitution of no value, of pointless. So the difference between a government of limited authority and unlimited authority is abolished if those that are bound to the restraints are able to exceed those restraints at will, or if the restraints that they're to, or the obligations that they have, if they're able to disregard those obligations by their discretion. You know, judges and prosecutors, they don't have the authority to be able to say, oh yes, the Constitution says that I have to do this, and I promise to do it by my oath of entering into my office, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to do that because I can use my discretion to make a decision. No, that would be an abuse of discretion, right? It would be using their discretion abusively to violate the law, to break the law. So that is not the way that it's supposed to work. All right. So what's going on is that there's 33 states here in the United States of America that do not conduct a grand jury, or they permit their prosecuting attorneys to use their discretion in order to not use the grand jury. But even those states, such as the state of Oklahoma, Article 1, Section 22, I believe it is, it says that the prosecuting attorney can charge by information or indictment by their discretion. Well, when you make the decision that you're going to permit your prosecuting attorney to use their discretion to pick and choose who has a constitutional right and who does not, that makes that law in particular now unconstitutional, because it's a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. No state shall create any law that does not provide equal protection of the law. And so when the state creates a law that says that their prosecuting attorneys can use their discretion to pick and choose who has a right and who does not have a right, well, that would be unconstitutional, right? It would be unconstitutional. It would be a violation of the Equal Protection Clause, and as a result, that law does not stand. Hang on, guys. I got to move my bag here. It's falling over. Okay, so so now let's look at the outcome. I'm still waiting for you, Dakota. If you're on, brother, send another invite. I can't see you quite yet. So send an invite and I'll accept if you're on there, brother. Okay, so when a state does enact its own alternative legislation and substitutes it for the guarantees of the Constitution, that would be something that's called sedition. Now, sedition is defined as the speaking or writing of words, such as law established, in order to cause disaffection to the Constitution to procure its alteration in an other than lawful manner. There's one way to change the Constitution, and that can be found in the special amending procedure of Article 5. And that's not done by judicial fiat. It's not done by legislative fiat or executive fiat. It must be done by an authentic act of the people in accordance with the Constitution of the United States. So a state has no authority to be able to enact its own laws and then substitute those laws for the guarantees of the Constitution, because that would be altering the Constitution in a manner other than what is lawfully prescribed, and that is the crime of sedition. Now, when the state does do this, and then they direct their agents, such as the prosecuting attorney, to rely upon that inferior state statute to deprive a person of right that's guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, now that's a crime, all right? It's a crime. It's called deprivation of rights under color of law, Title 18, subsection 2.2, which states, any person who, under the color of any state statute, ordinance, custom, or regulation, deprives any person of a right secured by the Constitution, commits that crime. So when the prosecuting attorney decides that they're going to rely upon invite sent, Dakota. When that prosecuting attorney chooses to rely upon that inferior state statute to deprive a person of right guaranteed by the Constitution, they commit that crime. Now, this is a per se crime. It's a per se crime, meaning that we don't have to prove that they intended to breach their obligation. Simply by virtue of the breach, all elements of crime have been met because their willfulness and their knowledge derives from the promise they make. If you make a promise to do something and you fail to fulfill that promise, I don't have to prove that you intended to because your willfulness and your knowledge derives from the promise that you make. Right? That's what makes it per se. That's why Article 3 of the United States Constitution says that the trial of all crimes, with the exception of impeachment, shall be by jury, and the trial shall occur in the state in which crime is said to have been committed. Because impeachment does not require a finding of facts. There's no trial that you get if you're a public official for an impeachment, because the impeachment is per se. All we have to do is show that you had an obligation, you failed to fulfill that obligation, and now you've already implicitly invited punishment in the form of perjury should you fail to fulfill such promise. Now, perjury just so happens to be a crime. It's a crime that's punishable by 5 years in prison, by the way. It's a felony or an infamous crime, and it is also a violation of public trust, meaning that you can no longer be trusted by the public to fulfill your obligations. Therefore, according to the Constitution of the United States, you are thereby discharged and you can never hold public office ever again. So public officials, it's very, very easy for us to be able to show that you had an obligation to ensure that before you held someone over for an infamous or a capital crime, that you must have an indictment by a grand jury, Mr. Judge. And when you chose to exceed the power authority statutorily conferred upon you by the Constitution of the United States, and you made a promise to fulfill certain obligations codified in the Constitution of the United States, when we show that you held someone over for a capital or an infamous crime without first having the necessary documentation that's in place in accordance with the Constitution of the United States and the oath that you took, the promise that you made to people in the United States, then you are thereby discharged. You can never hold public office ever again. And we don't care if you're a judge for lifetime appointment or not. You are already guilty of the crime because Article 3 says the judges, both of the United States and of the several states, shall maintain their office while in good behavior. And the Constitution of the United States defines good behavior as the avoidance of criminal behavior. So, Mr. Judge, the moment that you engage in criminal behavior, and once again, perjury is a crime, the moment you engage in criminal behavior, you are no longer fit to continue in office, and you are thereby discharged by, in accordance to the laws of the United States, according to the Constitution of the United States. And it's just that simple. This is a per se offense. We don't have to prove that you intended to do it because you made the promise to do it, and you've already implicitly invited punishment should you fail to fulfill the promise. You guys, this is a big, big deal right now, okay? What is the definition of an infamous crime? An infamous crime is defined by Title 18, subsection 4083 as any crime punishable by more than 1 year imprisonment in a penitentiary. Now, United States versus Coachman, United States Supreme Court came out and they said that it's not the amount of time that you get sentenced to, but the amount of time you can be sentenced to. Therefore, if you can get 1 year or if you can get 2 years, but you only get sentenced to 3 months, it is still an infamous crime. Therefore, it still is infamous nature and still requires indictment by grand jury in accordance with the Constitution of the United States. It is not the crime that creates the infamous nature. It is the duration in which you can be sentenced that creates the infamous nature. Most possession charges across the United States of America carries a greater than 1 year imprisonment in a penitentiary. And so as a result, every single one of those did require an indictment by a grand jury before arresting this person and holding them over, because the Constitution of the United States says no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So without an indictment by a grand jury before arresting you and holding you over, and remember, it is the judge that commits the crime. It's the judge that breaches the constitutional obligation because the judge is the one who makes the decision to hold the person over. The prosecutor made the mistake of bringing the incorrect charging instrument and relying upon the inferior state statute to do it. Yes, the prosecutor is absolutely implicated in a criminal conspiracy to undermine the laws of the United States by acting outside of their lawful authority and breaching their discretion. But it's the judge that commits the crime because it's the judge that orders the person to be held over, and the Constitution specifically states no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. This is a big deal. There are 2.7 million people currently across the United States of America today that are being held illegally and unconstitutionally in these institutions that we call a sweatshop in China, but they call a prison here in America. That's not what these are, you guys. And we got to be honest about this. This is an act of enslaving every single man, woman, child across the country in these institutions that they want to force someone that they simply title a criminal into involuntary servitude so they can work for the direct benefit of the state and state-run for-profit industries. This is disgusting. We got to end this. We got to bring it to a close right now. And that's why I'm appealing to you guys. I'm trying to get you guys to understand that we are on the verge of destroying. We're on the verge of changing this whole thing. And all I need to do right now is get across this country, get the criminal affidavits from all of you. You guys are the victims. You guys are. Because when the state chose to create a law that's in conflict with the Constitution of the United States to deprive you of something that's guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, that's a crime. And any time that government commits a crime in the adjudication of any action, whether it's civil or criminal, that action is void, wholly without force or effect on the parties involved in the dispute. Refer to Civil Rule 60B4, you guys, okay? Refer to Civil Rule 60B4. These judgments are void. Because when the state chooses to act unlawfully, then that produces an unlawful outcome. So when the state chose to rely upon an inferior state statute that was enacted that deprives a person of the right to an indictment by a grand jury in accordance with Clause 1 of Amendment 5 to the United States Constitution, that law is unconstitutional. Right? Then when the prosecuting attorney relies upon that unconstitutional state statute to deprive you of the right guaranteed by the Constitution, that's a crime. Deprivation of rights under the color of law. When they bring it to the judicial officer and they say to the judge, Judge, here, I would like you to hold this person over for this offense. That judge, he has a duty and a responsibility to ensure that the power he exercises is consistent with his authority. If he chooses to exercise his power based upon the prosecutor's abuse of power who relied upon an inferior state statute that was seditious in nature and contrary to the guarantees of the Constitution of the United States, that judge is also committing the crime now of deprivation of rights under the color of law. And not only that, but he has now established a conspiracy by and between himself and the prosecuting attorney for a conspiracy to deprive of rights, Title 18, subsection 241, right? Then when that judge commits that crime and orders the person to be held over, because remember, the Fifth Amendment says no person shall be held to answer. The judge makes the order to hold them over. It's the judge that commits the crime. It's the judge that establishes a conspiracy. And as a result, the moment that he signs that order to hold someone over and hands it off to an officer and says to that officer, I would like you to go out and make this arrest. That officer also has a duty and a responsibility to ensure that the power he exercises is consistent with his authority. If he chooses to exercise his authority based upon the judge's criminal acts that was established because he ordered someone to be held over in violation of the Constitution of the United States and the guarantees it provides, who relied upon the prosecuting attorney who abused their discretionary authority by relying upon an inferior state statute that was seditious in nature, that acts contrary to the Constitution of the United States, guess what happens then? That officer is also now involved in a deprivation of rights under the color of law, right? And they're now implicated in the criminal conspiracy due to their negligence, right? They cannot exercise power that is not valid. They can't rely upon someone else's abuse of power, or they themselves are abusing power. But here's the problem. The moment that they go out and they perform that arrest on any one of these victims, any one of these people in prison today, the moment they go out and perform that arrest now becomes kidnapping, because the state did not have authority to be able to perform the arrest, because they didn't have the proper documentation in place to perform the arrest. And it is a federal offense, Title 18, subsection 1201, because the victim is being held over for ransom in the form of bail. And anytime that you have a deprivation of rights under the color of law that occurs in conjunction with kidnapping, the punishment as prescribed by law is death, you guys. These are very, very serious offenses, and we got to bring it to these people's attentions, because I've been across the country. We've served the top executive officer, the attorney general in 33 states. We brought it to his attention. This is what's going on. This is what your agents are doing. This is the criminal acts of your agents, and they chose to do nothing about it. I went across the country then 2 months later, and I served every single Supreme Court in those same 33 states, bringing to their attention that their agents are also engaged in this criminal activity. And as a result, they had a duty and responsibility to take action. They did not take action, right? There's one place left that can take lawful action. And if they don't take action, then I'm going to go ahead and just leave it up to the people of the United States to decide what has to happen then, because we will have determined that there is not one single public official in a state government or federal government that is willing to step up, enforce the laws of the United States, and act in an honorable manner. And unfortunately, just as Justice Hugo Black stated in 1960, the United States Supreme Court, honorable men honor the law. There's no honor in these men that we have to stand up and call honorable every single day, and yet they're relying upon the despicable decisions of their predecessors, who were nothing more than slave owners. So we need to understand the foundation of the system. What we believe in is not real, but it can be. but it just depends on what we want to do about it. You guys, I want to get across this country. Give me one last chance. I need $1,100 more, and I can do this. I can do it. I am more than happy to spend Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever I have to do on a train, traveling this country to pick up the 500,000 criminal affidavits that you guys already have in place, and hopefully a couple million more that you guys will send, and get them to Washington, D.C. before January 20th, before we actually allow them to swear in these criminals that were just elected, okay? I want to make sure that before we take that step and we swear them in as public officials once again, that everybody is aware of the criminality of these individuals. I've gone to every single United States senator in the last 3 months, every single one of them. I sat in their office in Washington, D.C. I informed them of the criminal acts that are being committed by agents of their state. And not one of them has chosen to step up and do anything about this. Not one of them has even chosen to even speak about this. And the reason why is because when the people are silent, we give our consent. And we permit government to do things to us that they would not otherwise be able to do because we don't speak up and speak out and demand that they do it right. When government is silent on an issue, that is an indication of its guilt. Government is guilty on this issue. They know it. There's no discussion. They can't come and debate me on this issue because they already know that they're going to lose. They cannot compromise and alter the Constitution of the United States by a judicial ruling from 1833. The state of Washington cannot enact its own alternative legislation and substitute it for the guarantees of the Constitution and then act contrary to what the Constitution of the United States demands. There isn't one single person in the state of Washington, in the history of the state of Washington, that has ever been convicted legally and lawfully consistent with the procedures and processes established and codified in the Constitution of the United States, because not one single grand jury has ever been convened by the state of Washington. Not one single time. And it's not just the state of Washington. Take a look at the state of Connecticut. They just removed the grand jury completely from their Constitution in 1984. Ever since 1984, they have not convened a single grand jury. That means that no person has been convicted legally and lawfully consistent with the parameters and the requirements codified in the Constitution of the United States in that adjudication crimes in the state of Connecticut. It's also the state of Pennsylvania. It's also the state of Michigan. It's also the state of Oklahoma, state of Florida, state of Georgia, state of California. These are states that are acting in direct, willful defiance of the United States Constitution, and we need to bring this up, and we need to get this fixed. We need to get this fixed quickly. And you guys, you know my argument, right? You know the things that I bring forward. You know at least enough of my history. I don't hide anything from you guys. I want everybody to understand exactly who I am, because I don't want anybody to be surprised, right? But at the end of the day, I can do this. You guys know that I can do this. I need your support, and the support more than anything else is I need those 500,000 criminal affidavits, because when I bring 500,000 victims from all across this country, from every county and state across the lower 48, and I bring them to the Supreme Court and I say, here you go, Supreme Court, what do you want to do about these crimes that are being committed by your agents on your watch, crimes that are punishable by death, and what do you want to do? Because any public official, the laws of criminal conspiracy is any person who, having knowledge of any of the wrongs conspired to be done, and who have the power to prevent or aid in the prevention of the commission of same, neglects or refuses to do so, may be joined to dispense the action. If the Supreme Court of the United States fails to take action as lawfully required after being made aware of the criminal conspiracy of all their agents, then guess what? The Supreme Court of the United States is now permitting it because they're aware of it, and they're allowing it to continue. They are now a part of the criminal conspiracy, and as a result, they are now committing the crime of misprision of treason. All of them are barred from being able to hold public office. None of them can be judges anymore, because remember, Article 3 says the judges, both of the United States and of the several states, shall maintain their office while in good behavior, and good behavior is the avoidance of criminal behavior. Perjury is criminal behavior. If you do not fulfill your promise, Mr. Thomas, Miss Sotomayor, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Thomas, Miss Brown, if you do not fulfill your promise when I bring these 500,000 criminal affidavits to you, then guess what? You are no longer a judge. You no longer have honor, and your institution just lost all of its honor. If you want to be able to maintain your institution, you want to be able to maintain your power, right? Maintain whatever you perceive as your, then guess what? That means that you must assert your supremacy now, Supreme Court, because if the state courts are more powerful than you are, then that means you're nothing. You guys have powerless. You guys are nothing. Go home. You guys are just a joke, a bunch of liars, okay? Because right now, today, the state courts are able to abridge the very guarantees that you cannot abridge. And as a result, guess what? State courts are more powerful than your Supreme Court. That doesn't sound very supreme to me. So I would say either step up, assert your supremacy, get the lower courts to obey what you must obey and your edict, Supreme Court. And if you don't, then guess what? You guys are a joke. You guys are a joke. You guys are a bunch of liars and, whatever. So, Dakota, you're on now. Let's go ahead and have a little bit of a dialogue here. So,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother. Yeah. So again, guys, we're still $1,100 short. I want to be on this train at 11:40 tonight, heading on out. Okay, I want to be heading out tonight. I'm gonna spend the next 40 days on a train. I don't care, right? Whatever I got to do to get around the country to get this evidence from you guys, so we can drive it straight to Supreme Court, get it there before January 20th, before these public officials are sworn into office, and this becomes official that we're now going to continue to follow a bunch of criminals in the direction the criminals lead us.
Awesome. Hey, listen, guys. I want y'all to know something. This is very important that we get behind what is happening, because I have already taken action from what I have been learning from what Brother Tenawa is talking about. And I tell you, there is a group here in my state, in the state of New Hampshire. It's called the AFSC, and they came up with a bill against the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. And that bill was towards the exemption that's within the 13th Amendment to get it disbanded and make slavery. That bill got passed in the House and went to the legislators. And on the legislators' level, they denied it and kicked it back to the House. So we had to have another meeting with the House, and I was present for that second meeting. And one of the things that stood out to me the most, that was so powerful when I hear Brother Tenawa speak, and that was one of the chair people says, how come you guys don't take this to the higher level? Why are you starting here? And no one got it. No one really saw what the power of what was just said. They threw us a damn, man, that was a serious touchdown and nobody even caught it. It didn't dawn on me until I started listening to what Brother Tenawa is talking about. Yes, makes sense.
Yeah, so the way I see it, you guys, and the way I like to say it is that the way we're trying to deal with criminality here, it's never going to work. You can't do it from the bottom up. You can't go out and arrest the people for the crimes they commit, because if the people, right, if our leaders are criminals, right, if we're being led by criminals, and remember, the definition of a criminal is simply one that transgressed the law. And it doesn't matter if the law is the Constitution or if the law is a state statute or if you transgress the law, you are defined as a criminal. So if our leaders are criminals, right, because they're not following the Constitution, there isn't one single one of these public officials that have been willing to step up. You guys, I've notified every single one of them, right? But if our country is being led by criminals, people are acting outside of the established rule of law and the will of the people, then that means we're going to be led toward criminality. And that's going to produce an environment of crime, which will then produce a society of criminals. We are simply following our leaders. And then we wonder why we have 5% of the world's human population, but 26% of the world's prison population. We wonder why we imprison at 16 times more than the next closest industrialized nation. We do that because our leaders who are leading us are criminals, you guys, are criminals. So the way that you have to deal with criminality is from the top down. You can't go to the bottom and work your way up. You must go from the top down, because we got to start with the leadership. We got to make sure that our leaders are leading us in a lawful direction, out of love, faith, obedience, and law, and respect for the people and the laws that they establish, their will, and the very laws that create their office and grant them authority. We must first ensure that those people are acting lawfully and leading us in a lawful direction, which will then produce a lawful environment, and that will produce a good citizenry of lawful people, because we will continue to follow our leaders. But as long as our leaders are acting outside of the Constitution of the United States, because listen, right? Listen, 99% of all convictions today do not have an indictment by a grand jury, because even when there is an indictment, 99% of them do not get the right to be present in the grand jury to confront the accusation against them. You guys, the purpose of the grand jury is to protect the accused from hasty or malicious charges. That is a proceeding that's there for the benefit of the accused and not the accuser. So when you deny the accused the right to be present to confront the accusation against them, that is conspiracy to obstruct justice, because conspiracy to obstruct justice is when two or more persons conspire for the purpose of preventing any party in any cause from participating in said cause commits that crime. So when the prosecuting attorney conspires by and between the accuser to deny the accused the right to be present in a proceeding that is there for his benefit, that is a crime. And by that crime alone, it negates everything else after that. But we can also go to actual statute, right? Title 42, subsection 1981, that says that all persons within the jurisdiction of the United States shall be entitled to full and equal benefits of all laws and all proceedings. The Fifth Amendment is a law of the United States, therefore protected by 1981. The grand jury is a proceeding created by the laws of the United States, therefore protected by 1981. Therefore, if you were to have full and equal benefits of all proceedings, why are you not present in that grand jury in a proceeding that's there for your benefit? Right? So what they're doing is completely unlawful. They've been acting outside of their lawful authority for so long that we have forgotten, what freedom is, right? We've accepted this illusion that they've given to us. But this illusion is not constitutionally codified. It's not consistent with the founding principles. It's not consistent with our beliefs or society's beliefs. It's not what we have faith in, right? Because we're listening to a bunch of liars, a bunch of criminals. Because remember, perjury is simply not failing to fulfill a promise. That's a liar. So we're listening to a bunch of liars, and what liars tell us, we know that they're liars. Every one of us know that. And as a result, if we're going to listen to the lies from liars, then obviously we're going to be led in the direction they want us to go, right? So you cannot solve this issue of criminality from the bottom up. You got to go to the top down. That's why I'm going to the source of the problem, the Supreme Court of the United States, because ever since that institution has been put into place, they have never, ever, ever followed the Constitution of the United States. They've been undermining the Union. They've been undermining the laws of the United States, because conflict and crime creates crime, and crime creates criminals, and criminals make them and their institution a lot of money. If the Constitution got its way, there would be peace and harmony, right? We would all be free to be able to live our lives respected and so on. But that doesn't create crime. That doesn't make them money. If the Constitution got its way, they would all be out of a job, because the Constitution has declared that all men are to be free. So who are they to continue to proliferate this concept, this idea that slavery is acceptable as the punishment for crime? This is contrary to the Constitution of the United States. The laws that we established and that we created guaranteed freedom, and yet everything that they do is contrary to what we believe in, right? They say lock them up and enslave them. They say, oh no, we created laws that set free, right? Every single thing that they're trying to do is in the destruction of America, and we need to understand that. So what I'm doing, you guys, what I'm doing is I'm going against them, right? I'm going head to head against the Supreme Court of the United States. I'm calling them out for the criminals that they are. And if they want to act lawfully, if they want to be honorable, if they want to save their institution, if they want to keep the power that they believe that they have, then they're going to have to step up and get behind this. Because if they don't, then they have no institution anymore, because we've proven that the state courts can do more than they can do. The state courts can deprive you of things that they can't. If the Supreme Court of the United States were to be at a trial court today for a trial, that Supreme Court of the United States would have to have an indictment by a grand jury consistent with the Constitution of the United States. But the state of Washington could say, yeah, I'm going to give it to this guy, but not to this guy. Therefore, the Washington State Constitution is more powerful than the Supreme Court of the United States. That means Supreme Court is not supreme unless they step up and assert their supremacy. And if they don't, then awesome. You're nothing. You're a bunch of liars, bullshit, go home. You don't exist anymore. They don't want to give up their power, guys. We're appealing to that power. We're coming in and saying, you guys, you either step up and you do your job, right? You do the things that you say you can do, or we're going to call you out for the liars and criminals that you are. Because remember, of the first 28 Supreme Court justices that served on the court, 22 of them own their own slaves. And then we wonder why the foundation of our system is slavery, right? You're absolutely right, Dakota. We will never, ever, ever solve this out at the edge. We got to start at the top. We got to make sure that we're being led in an honorable, lawful direction. And until we do, then you cannot hold the people accountable for the crimes they commit, because if our leadership are acting outside of the law in their actions, then they cannot find guilt where there is no law. If you, government, are acting unlawfully, then you cannot have a lawful conviction, a lawful judgment, because just as scripture says, where there is no law, where there is lawlessness, there cannot be guilt. You can't hold any one of these people guilty because what you're doing is unlawful, and you cannot have a lawful outcome derived from an unlawful act, government. So back to Dakota here. Yeah. So I do have change.org, and we will. I can put that out as well. We do have a petition out on change.org, but we're going directly head to head against the Supreme Court right now, and we're at the end. Like, we've already moved all the way through all the state courts. We've already moved through all three levels of the federal circuit. We are at the Supreme Court, and we're knocking on their door. And you know, I'm not so concerned about them hearing the case as much as bringing as much shame as possible down upon them, so that they just give up, because they're so tired of hearing about, you know, how criminal and shitty they actually are. They're the reason why our country is being destroyed, right? It's that court, and the despicable acts of those people we have to call honorable every single day. They did this, right? And so you also need to understand that what I'm being told every single day by the legislators, the senators, everyone, they're like, oh, this is too big of a deal, right? This is too big. Like we can't solve. And I'm saying to them, bullshit. You guys created this. The people didn't do this. You guys did. So don't tell me that this is too big of a deal. You created this, and now the people are suffering as a result of your criminal acts. You did this. You caused this. I don't care how big it is. I don't care how many times it's been done. I don't care how long you've been doing it. What's unlawful is unlawful, and you're going to fix your unlawfulness, or guess what? You're going to tell 330 million people that what they believe in is not real anymore, and I don't think that any one of you are going to find your way home that night, especially in the patriotic spirit of America today. Right? Tell the American people that you are not going to follow the Constitution of the United States. Tell them. Let them know that, right? I dare you. I dare any one of you, senators, congressmen, judges, tell the people of the United States that you are not going to follow what they have established and what you are lawfully and constitutionally obligated to follow, that you promised that you would do. Show them just how dishonorable you are. I dare you. Back, Dakota. So, all right. So, again, I'm $100 short, okay, guys, and the $1,100 that we still have remaining, you know, that estimate was enough to be able to cover all the transportation costs. I think that I would have all of it, right? So, you know, in the past, it's been a lot more surge when I went out and did these tours. You guys, I've been through a few of these already. And lots of times we were being responsive for fuel and saying, okay, we're out of gas today, and we need $800 to be able to fill the bus or whatever. That's not how it's going to be this time. All right. This time, if I could reach this estimate where with the $1,100 we have remaining, then I believe that that's going to be sufficient to be able to cover all of the transportation costs all the way across country, everywhere we need to go. I don't believe we'll all have to go back and ask for anything else because of the mode in which we're going to be doing the travel this time. Now, this does not include food or hotels, but you know, you guys are amazing across the country. You guys have been supporting me a lot, and I know that you guys you'll be more than happy to put me up in a bed for the night if I need to. And I know that you guys have feed me. You guys have been amazing the whole time. So I appreciate everything that you guys have done to be able to support this. And so I have no problem whatsoever getting on the road. All right, with just a couple $100 more. But the estimate that we have, the remaining 1,100, that I'm going to need that before we're going to be able to finish this. Okay. But again, the whole plan right now is 500,000 criminal affidavits that I receive in person, take into my custody. I hold it in my custody as the evidence custodian. And then I maintain it under a lockbox while we travel across country, collecting all this evidence, returning it back to Washington, D.C. by January 20th, so that we can get there before these people are sworn in, so we can make sure that people in the United States are fully aware of the criminals that they're about to swear into office. we want to make sure that everyone is fully aware of this situation. Okay?
My bad.
Let's go ahead.
All right. My bad.
So we can hear your thing. Okay. So
Yeah, I'm here. You want me to mute?
oh no, it's up to you if you got a question here, brother. Yeah.
Well,
We're gonna talk about
I just want something. I want to say something to everyone. Guys, listen. This here is so important for everyone's lives. Now is the time. We cannot waste or hesitate. We got to take action. Taking action is what's going to get this done. In each and every state. We got to coordinate with Brother Tenawa, for him to come through when he arrived to pick up it have to be well coordinated, and everyone have to be in unison when we're making this happen, because it can happen very fast. It is possible. I'm seeing it work for me already, okay, on my level. So I'm just excited about getting up there to the top, because one of the main things that he always say is you got to get to the high ground and sit on that and stand on that and make them come up to you. I have been doing that here on the local level, and I have made them come up to me and was able to get them to remove and go to the higher courts. You just got to know and believe that what he is saying is so accurate and it makes so much sense. All it takes is one person to get through and the floodgates opens up for everyone. Don't worry. Don't be concerned about anything else right now. Let's get that one through. Come on, y'all. Put those donations up and let's get them there.
Yeah. So, we live in what's called an incident-driven society, meaning that it requires an incident to drive change. America doesn't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, we're going to do something different," because it requires an incident in order to create the change. But that only requires one person, right? It only requires one person here in America to create an incident that will drive a change, right? I mean, as I developed this vision of this future country that I believed in, that I come to find out wasn't real, I'm fighting for that vision. I'm fighting for what all of you believe in, and you guys can all understand what I'm saying, because we all believe in the same thing. I'm simply saying that this is the American principles. This is the vision of, this is the dream of America, right? And so, but we've never actually realized it, because they say that there's two types of fools in the world. There's those that choose to believe in something that isn't real, and there's those that refuse to believe in what is real, right? And America's made up of a lot of fools. I'm sorry, guys, but half of our country, if not more, they believe in something that isn't real, called justice. Justice isn't real. It's a lie, right? Justice is nothing more than a term was created by slave owners in order to preserve and protect their property, right? And we can see that all through history, American history, that's what it is, right? We can see from the Civil War, we can see from the Civil Rights Acts, we can see from the Fugitive Slave Act that a fugitive is a slave and a slave is a fugitive. We can see from the 13th Amendment, the very amendment that was put into place in order to abolish slavery did nothing of the sort. Not only does it permit slavery, but it codified the legality of it within our foundational law, because it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist except as punishment for crime. And the moment you say except, it means you can't have slavery. But we call it justice here in America. So you see, what we believe in is not real, because slavery is not justice, right? And justice is not simply taking one side and suppressing the other side, because truth will always lie somewhere between two stories. What we believe in today is not real, but the majority of society believes in it. Up until 8 years ago, I believed in it. I fought for it. I was way up in it. But now I believe in something different, because now I've seen that what I believe in wasn't real and I was a fool, right? And there's a lot of fools out there that need to be made aware of their foolishness, right? And so, it only takes one. It will only require one. And so again, if I can win this argument, you guys know that I can, and all I have to do is beat the state of Washington. I don't have to beat all 50 states. I only have to beat the state of Washington. I only have to show that Washington State's Constitution, Article 1, Section 26 says no grand jury shall be drawn or summoned in any county. And then the United States Constitution says no person shall be held to answer for capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, that the state of Washington had no authority to be able to enact its own alternative legislation, substitute it for the guarantees of the Constitution, and then direct its agents to enforce that inferior state statute that deprives a person of right guaranteed by the Constitution. That's all I have to do is prove. And that doesn't take any more than what I just said. It's clear, it's simple, it's concise. There's no arguing it or debating it, which is why government is silent on this issue. But if I can win that debate right there, right? And all I have to do is get heard, right? The Supreme Court, they don't want to hear this. They're ignoring this all that they can, right? They know all about it, guys. I've got dossiers with the Secret Service and FBI. You know, they're investigating me. We know some of the things that they've already done to me, right? They love to arrest me and steal all my property. They love to arrest me and take my cars, but they can't do anything to me, right? But at the end of the day, that's what they like to do, right? They know all about everything we're arguing, and yet they can't do anything about it. You guys, all I have to do is get heard, right? And how I'm going to get heard is you guys are going to come and back me up. You guys are going to push me in. And when we have one argue on behalf of the collective, if that one overcomes the procedural situation, all petitioners overcome the procedural situation. I can argue on your behalf, you guys. You know I can. And if I win the argument, then all of you win the argument. That's how vicarious relief works. This is a writ of habeas corpus that is a class action writ of habeas corpus that affects millions and millions of people. I want the affidavits from you guys of the victim, the criminal acts that were committed against you when they charge you with an offense by way of information, not by indictment, as required by the Constitution of the United States. I want that very simple affidavit written, taken from you into my custody. I want to carry it across the country as the evidence custodian. I want to bring it to the court proceeding to where they're going to have to hear this case. We got the numbers, you guys. There's 70 million people that could potentially become co-litigants or co-petitioners in this that I could argue on behalf of the collective. That means that if I argue this and I win, then that means that all of your judgments, all of your charges, because even if you're fighting a case right now, right? Even if you're out fighting a case right now, that case goes away. Because any time that government commits an unconstitutional act, they can't come after you in that unconstitutional act. So even if you're fighting a case right now, if you get behind me and help push me into this and I win this case, and I can win this, guys, we're on the verge of it, right? If you could push me into the court, if we can create enough noise to be heard, right? Then once they hear us, I will win the argument. And when I win the argument, all of your judgments, all of your imprisonment, all of your parole, all of your fines, all of this goes away because none of it was valid. It was all done as a result of an unconstitutional breach of statutory obligation by a public official. None of it's valid. It's all void. It's all unconstitutional. So you guys, you don't need to spend money right now on an attorney. You guys don't need to come to me and say, hey, how do I serve my judge for this? Because the judge has already been served. Let me fight at the top for you. Let me go to the top. Let me fight against the real criminals. Let me make them obey the law. And when they obey the law, then their agents will have to obey the law. The reason why your state judges are not doing what they're lawfully obligated to do, you guys have told me numerous times that you've gone in and said this, well, judge, why am I not getting that? And then they've retaliated against you. They come down even harder on you. Don't put yourself into a situation where that's going to happen. Let me do it. I'm already at the top. I've already fought way through all this. I'm at the top. Let me have this argument on your behalf, you guys. Let me do it, right? All you got to do is just give me the opportunity to be able to argue on your behalf, right? And that means get me back to DC. Get me back to DC with the evidence I need to bring this shame down upon that institution. Let me make those 9 justices at the top obey the law. And in doing that, they will direct all their agents to obey the law. And that means that you will all be empowered with what you need to overcome the injustice that you are experiencing in your life today. Okay? You don't need to worry about an attorney right now. You don't need to worry about an appeal right now. You don't need to worry about any of that right now, because if you cut through the bullshit, if you open up your eyes and you realize that every single thing they're doing is unconstitutional because it derives from an unconstitutional act, because they didn't do what they were constitutionally obligated to do, then none of it's valid. Why would you appeal? Why would you spend $20,000 on an attorney to go and appeal something that you can see with your own eyes isn't even real? It's not even valid. It doesn't even exist. It's a figment that they're trying to create. You guys, if the arrest is unconstitutional because it derives from an unconstitutional act, they breach their statutory obligation, their constitutional obligations in the arrest, then by the unconstitutionality of that arrest, everything coming from that arrest must also be unconstitutional because it is all tainted by the illegality of the way in which it was obtained. Nothing can be lawful if it derives from an unlawful act. You cannot have a lawful conviction that derives from an unconstitutional arrest. So none of that has to be fought. All we got to do is go to the beginning and say, did you have the authority to make this arrest? The answer is no. No, no, no. In 2.9 million cases, right? 70 million cases. All of you guys, the arrest was unconstitutional because the state did not follow the proper procedures, because they either, one, committed conspiracy to obstruct justice by not allowing you to be present in the grand jury, or they outright did not have a grand jury and did not secure an indictment and instead charged you by way of information, which is unconstitutional, illegal, and even in violation of federal statutory code, Title 18, subsection 555. You guys, if you could save the money with your attorneys today, if you can cut through it and open up your eyes and see that what they've done was unconstitutional at the beginning, then why are you going to fight at the end? Why are you going to fight for an appeal when you can just point to the arrest and say, nah, that was unconstitutional. That's the moment you committed an unconstitutional act. Therefore, everything after that must also be unconstitutional because it's tainted by the illegality of the way it is obtained. You don't need to fight for the judgment. You don't need to appeal it if the unconstitutional act occurred at the arrest. You go to the arrest and you say, no, there isn't even anything to appeal because the arrest was unconstitutional, therefore everything after that was. It's not real. The investigation, the trial, the plea, the sentencing, the parole, the fine, all of that came after the arrest. Go to the arrest. And then you don't got to worry about any of that. You don't got to worry about irregularities or anything else. All you got to worry about is, did they commit a crime in the pursuance of that outcome? The answer is yes. They didn't have authority to arrest you because they didn't follow the proper rules in the adjudication of that arrest, right? They didn't have the proper documentation in place because they felt that they could do whatever they want, state of Washington, and not do what the people wanted and what the people put into place and what you yourself subjected yourself to in 1874 when you chose to become part of the Union and subject yourself to the supremacy of the United States Constitution. It's as simple as that, you guys. Give me an opportunity to fight for you, right? We're that close. All I need to do is get back across this country. All I need to do is get the evidence from you guys, right? But money has been a very, very difficult thing because I don't get paid, right? I don't get paid. I made a decision 9 years ago that I was going to do this because it's the right thing to do and because you guys needed help and because I knew that I had the ability to do it, right? They've taken everything from me, just like they've taken everything from you. That's okay, right? That's because we'll get it all back. God's gonna make sure that we're rewarded for the service that we provide to Him, right? I've been serving this country. I've been serving God. I've been serving all of you every single day, faithfully for the last 9 years, ever since I was woken up from my ignorance of fighting for the wrong side. Okay. So give me an opportunity. Give me an opportunity to get back to DC. Give me an opportunity to collect this evidence now, make it back by June 20th so we can make sure that before we swear in these senators, these congressmen, whoever else that was elected into position, that we're fully aware of this criminal conspiracy and undermine the laws of the United States before they get sworn in, that we make sure that their criminality is well known, or they've chosen to mitigate their criminality by choosing to return to the established rule of law and obeying the will of the people and supporting the independent Constitution of the United States right beside me. Okay. So, I think that's about it. I'm going to try to come on again, because I want to be on this train by 11:40, guys, and tonight. And if the money comes in, I'll be on it. If it doesn't come in, then obviously there's a limitation that I can't overcome anyway. So, if you guys are willing to support this, I would welcome the blessings that you guys can give, and I will do the things I say that I will do because I'm a man of my word. So you can trust things I say. I have not failed on anything that I've done. I've been around this country 16 times in the last 18 months. 3 of those times was on these tours where I said I'm going to do this in 40 days, serve these attorney generals, serve these Supreme Courts. I said I would do it, and every single time I did exactly what I said I would do. I finished on the exact day that I said that I would finish it on. So anybody who claims that I don't do what I say that I do just clearly has no clue what they're even talking about or or they're coming in to infiltrate and undermine, the service that I'm providing. Guys, I've done every single thing that I've said that I would do every single time. I've finished on the exact date every single time. I've served every single one of the Supreme Courts, every single one of the Attorney General. I've done what I said and promised that I would do, and I will continue to do it. Right now, I have one major task left. It might seem like a big deal, but 500,000 criminal affidavits amongst 70 million potential petitioners, I don't think that's that big of a task. I'm willing to take that under, and I'm willing to tell you guys that, give you my word that I can do that and that I'll have it done. We'll get it back to DC before January 20th. We will follow the proper rules of evidentiary procedures. I'm the evidence custodian. I will receive this evidence from you as the victims. I will transport it back, and I will make sure that it is delivered to the court for proper lawful adjudication, you guys. So thank you so much for everything that you guys have done. Thank you so much for everything you guys continue to do. Dakota, is there anything else you want to say, brother, before I step out here?
Yeah, real quick. 'Cause I was going through the questions and so forth, and so everyone, please understand this. If you can put together a group of people, as far as the affidavits are concerned, he's gonna have the affidavits, and he's gonna show up to your city, to your town. If you could put together a group of people that is willing to sign the affidavits when he show up, we just line them up. They sign the affidavits. He put them under a lockbox, and he take them back to Washington along the way. And this is how we're going to get it done. Please do not expect for him to expect you to create an affidavit, because it won't be in the verbiage and the language that he's going to create it in. So leave that part up to him. Let's make this simple for each and every one of us. What you could be doing, I charge and challenge you guys to put together your own group and reach out and say, hey, when you reach this area, we can bring you here to have these people sign these affidavits. That's pretty much the flow of it. It's going to flow the way it's supposed to flow. If we can all come together united and be very specific about how we're going to move with intentions. We got to have intentions on this, guys, so it can be done. Let's just follow the lead. Let's just follow the lead.
Yeah, and I see that there's a whole bunch of questions on that too. So let me just talk really briefly about the affidavit. So again, what's important is not what they did to you. What's important was the crime that they committed against you. So this is the way I like to say it, is that we've got to stop defending ourselves, right? Because when you defend yourself, when you defend yourself against the things that they're doing, right? When you talk about the rules of evidentiary procedures, or when you talk about how a judge denied you your right to be able to testify, or the prosecutor lied, or the judge brought in fabricated evidence, all of those things are in an area of adjudication that's beyond whether or not the court had the authority to be able to even bring you in, which is the arrest, right? If the arrest is where the government committed a crime, then we don't want to talk about anything else, because we can bring together the whole mass. We can bring together 70 million people at the point of the arrest, right? And what that does is that establishes the class action, okay? Because it's not a class action if you're going to argue for irregularities in the evidentiary procedures, or if you're going to argue for judge bringing in malicious evidence, right, or malicious intentions, right? It's not illegal if you're talking about witnesses that are lying, right, or be tampered with. That is not a class action. A class action is one issue that affects every petitioner in the procedural situation. So how do we get the majority of the people together into one single issue that affects every single one of those petitioners in the same procedural situation? We point at the moment of the arrest, because if the state did not have authority to perform the arrest, because they didn't have the proper documentation in accordance with the Constitution to do the arrest, then that's all we have to talk about. And that's why the affidavit is so simple. I don't want to know about your case, because none of your case matters, because it's all an illusion. Because none of it was with lawful authority. The state did not have the authority to even call you into that courtroom. And when they did, without lawful authority, by arresting you without having the proper documentation in place, then that means that now if we talk about all those issues, then we are getting outside of the class formation. We want to form the class. We want to bring the class together, and we want all of us to have one single procedural situation that affects everyone, which means that if any one of the petitioners overcome the procedural situation, even if they take me out and I don't make it and I don't win, or even if I fail in the argument, that doesn't mean that there's not 70 million people behind me and one of them is going to win. And if one procedural or if one petitioner overcomes the procedural situation, all petitioners overcome the procedural situation. That's the way vicarious relief works. So if I can show that the arrest is unconstitutional, right, because it derives from an unconstitutional act by a law that was created by a seditious act of a state, if I can prove that, which I can, then in doing so, what happens then is all the petitioners in the same procedural situation will all overcome their particular injustice as well. One action, one question, all prisoners. That's why the motto of the TUR is that way. One question, one action, every prisoner, because we only have one question. We only need one action, and if that one action overcomes the procedural situation of that petitioner, all petitioners in the same procedural situation overcomes it. That's why we had petitioners come forward. That's why I served on behalf of specific litigants within each one of the states, and we've already served those, is because through each one of those petitioners, such as Mr. Belinsky in Colorado, or Mr. Cotton down in Louisiana, or Mr. Coleman down in Alabama, or Miss Wynn in North Carolina, if any one of them overcomes the procedural situation, all overcome. If I win at the Supreme Court, if I win this argument, then all those litigants that I served on behalf of on the states, they have all met me at the same level. And now through them, we can provide relief back into each one of these states. All 33 of those states, we can provide relief back in for all of the petitioners within the prison system that were denied the very rights that are identified and codified in the Constitution of the United States. That's why this affidavit must be very, very specific. It must be very, very simple. And all it is, you guys, all it is this, okay? And this is why it only takes 5 minutes to fill this out, right? Once I release this affidavit, it will take you guys 5 minutes to fill it out. And what it says is the first part, item A, says, it says that on such and such date, this prosecuting attorney did deprive you, the victim, of rights guaranteed by the Constitution when they charge you by way of information, not by indictment as required by Constitution for the United States of America. That's the first one. That creates the deprivation of rights under color of law. A prosecutor charged you by way of information, not by indictment. That's all that needs to be said. That's it. The second part, part B, says that on such and such date, this judge did conspire by and between this prosecuting attorney and this police officer when you, the victim, were held to answer for an infamous crime without an indictment by a grand jury consistent with Clause 1 of Amendment 5. That's all that has to be said. That establishes the conspiracy. That's all that needs to be put in. You only have to put in the name of your prosecuting attorney, your name, the county of the prosecuting attorney, the state that you're in, and that's it, the date, right? And we don't want any more, because all 70 million of these potential petitioners, they all can have that exact same affidavit put in place. That's it. And then all you do after that is you say that you are now asking the magistrate to hold these defendants over for trial for the crimes of 1, deprivation of rights under the code of law, 2, conspiracy to deprive rights, 3, kidnapping, and 4, any other crimes as ascertainable by the evidence on the record. So we are simply invoking our right to citizen's arrest for the felony committed in our presence, which is authorized under federal law. And since this is federal law, we're going to federal court and we're saying to federal court, listen, here are crimes under federal law that have been committed by state agents. Here's the law. And we're just simply asking you, federal court, to enforce the federal law against those criminals that have now committed these crimes. And all they have to do to mitigate their culpability, that's why I haven't brought the criminal action forward yet, is that all that they have to do is step across and say to me that they're going to obey the law, obey the Constitution, and start fighting properly, start acting lawfully. And if they don't, then they're part of the criminal conspiracy. Every single judge, every single prosecutor, every single attorney, every attorney general, they're all part of the criminal conspiracy until they choose to obey the established rule of law and return to what the law states that they must do, fulfill their obligations. And then in doing so, they can mitigate their culpability in the criminal conspiracy and we can move forward as a nation fixing the problems. But you're not going to fix the problems by simply ignoring it. You're not going to fix the problems by breaking the Constitution of the United States and committing the crime of treason. That's not in open court, which, by the way, is a requirement for treason to occur. It must be done in open court. And guess what? Every single one of these judges, prosecutors, law enforcement, they're all committing this crime in open court because the deprivation of rights occur in open court. That's what treason is, you guys. So yeah, the affidavit is very, very simple. But one of the reasons why you haven't seen the affidavit yet, because I've seen a lot of questions about that, is because until I know that I'm able to come and pick these up, I don't want this floating around. I don't want a bunch of people going and taking this affidavit and saying, okay, I'm gonna go serve my judge or I'm gonna go serve my prosecutor because they think that, that they want to, stand up to them. And that's not going to be smart. That's going to be really stupid because that's going to bring retaliation against you doing something you don't have to do. The judges have already been served. If I serve the highest judicial officer in the state, then that means that all the judicial officers in the state have already been served. You don't have to serve any one of them. They're already served. I've already provided notice to the state Supreme Court. If I've already provided notice to the state attorney general, you don't have to go and notify your prosecutor of this criminal complaint because they've already been notified. Notice to agent is notice to principal, but notice to principal is notice to agent. So once we notify the highest executive officer, the attorney general, then all of his agents are notified. And once we notify the highest judicial officer, Supreme Court, then all of their agents are notified. You don't need to go and do this over again, right? But that's one of the reasons why I've been holding on to this, because I want to make sure that when this is released, that I have the funds and the ability to be able to go around this country, pick up all of the affidavits that are going to be produced, so that we don't have a bunch of bullshit going on. Because this could very, very easily get out of hand, especially if there's people that, that just think that they're tough or whatever and, want to be some hero. And then they go into their courthouse and they raise a bunch of fuss. And then all of a sudden, this is now labeled as some sort of a insurrection, or this is labeled as some sort of a criminal act. We are peaceably assembling. So all I'm saying is, you guys, let me take the affidavits. Let me bring it to the people that are really responsible for all those judges and prosecutors all across the United States. Let me go to them. Let me fight the battle against them. And when I do, if I win, you all win. You all win. Every one of you. Vicarious relief. We can do this. And all I need is you guys just get behind this. Just get behind it and just let me go and do this, because I'm telling you, I'm chomping at the bit. I can make this happen in the next 2 months. Once again, I'm a man of my word, and that one I'll give you my word on, because we're that close, right? We're that close. We have the power with the election, and so you guys, I've seen that there's a whole bunch of donations that come in. I believe that I probably have enough now from what I've just seen. I probably have enough that I will be on the road tonight. Okay. I don't have the full amount, but that's okay. I have enough that I'll be getting this started. And, again, the affidavits, they need to be very, very simple. We cannot change. I will not accept any affidavit that is different. And here's the plan. So the affidavits I'm going to have with me when on the cities I go to. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to be going to the jails, right? Or to the courthouses, like in LA. I'm going to go directly to the courthouse. I'm going to stand there for a few hours and just start building some awareness. Okay. So you guys will see me at these major courthouses. That's one of the places I'll be. We're going to be having rallies. All right. If you guys have a group within your city when I get there, if you guys want to do a town hall meeting or something, you want to set it up, absolutely. I would be more than happy to come and speak to anybody that wants to listen. Again, all of this is, I don't charge for my time. You guys, you don't got to pay for my time, but you might need to give me a ride over to where you want me to be. Okay. But other than that, God pays for me. He's made it very clear that I can't charge for the service I provide, because what God gives freely to me, I must give freely to all of you. And so I'm here at your service. I'm serving you guys. That's what I do. Everything I know, I want you guys to know, because that's going to make the whole country more powerful than it would be if I were to keep this information, protect it, and hide it, and not share it with all of you. I want you guys to know everything I know. That's what's really important. Okay, so every single one of these states, what we're looking at, probably a northwest loop first because we're going to be using the train, so it's going to be a little bit complicated. So I'm looking at potentially a northwest loop, which would take me probably into California, Sacramento, north around, and then across back to Chicago. And then from Chicago, we'll do a southwest loop, which will bring us back to California, Sacramento, bring us to San Francisco, LA, and then across Flagstaff, Albuquerque, and so on, all the way across the bottom. We're going to be in Amarillo, and then we're going to be coming north back into Chicago, and then from Chicago, we're going to take another trip down south, and we'll do a southeast loop, which will take us down to down Amarillo, Dallas, San Antonio, and then across the lower states as well. You guys can see the Amtrak route, and so we're going to be able to hit almost every single one of these states by doing this. And it's going to be safe. It's going to be easy. I'm not going to have to worry about hotel rooms because I'm going to be able to just sleep on the train. We're not going to have to worry about traffic. We're not going to have to worry about falling asleep. We're not going to have to worry about gas. We're just going to do this, and we're just going to keep going, and we'll have a dedicated driver to be able to do it. So we've got some boxes, some lock bins that are on wheels that we're going to be carrying around. We're going to have loose paperwork for you guys, so we'll be able to fill in the blanks, because once again, there's only like 10 spots that you need to fill in. Your name, prosecutor's name. If you don't know your prosecutor's name, that's okay, right? Because you can say that a person portraying himself as a prosecuting attorney, right? Or a person portraying himself as a judicial officer, or a person portraying himself as a law enforcement officer. If you don't know the names of these people, it's okay, because that doesn't negate the fact that this crime actually still occurred to you. And when you go and report a crime to the police today, you don't necessarily know who your robber was. No, it was just some guy in a black hat, right? So you don't have to know their name. You could say a person portraying himself as a robber, a person portraying himself as a judicial officer. So if you don't know the names, that's okay. We can get by without that, right? But we do need to know the approximate date. That it's going to be very, very important that we know the approximate date that you were arrested. That's when the crime occurred, the moment you were arrested, okay? Because that's the moment you were held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime without indictment by a grand jury. So it's the arrest. Now there's another thing here that we need to get clear, okay? And that is who can sign on behalf of this, okay? So what we're doing here is we are enacting a citizen's arrest. Now, under federal law, a citizen's arrest must be a felony committed in your presence. Felony in your presence, okay? So those are two requirements. Now, deprivation of rights under club law is a felony because it's punishable by death when it occurs in conjunction with a kidnapping. So, yes. Now, it has to occur in your presence. Meaning that if you are the victim, if you're the actual person that got arrested, if you're sitting in prison right now, then we may not be able to get a signature from you because they're gonna prevent us from being able to get signatures from all you sitting in prison. So in order for you to be able to have an affidavit delivered to us, right, we would need someone that was present when you were arrested. Was your mother present? Was your wife present? Was your daughter present? Anyone that was present when you were arrested, they can sign because the felony did occur in their presence. Now, if you're the victim and you've already served your time and you're out, you can sign, right? Because this still applies. This would void even past judgments where time has already been served, right? This doesn't expire, right? Because a void judgment doesn't ever become valid simply because you served your time or paid your fine or whatever. No, it still is a valid void judgment, and as a result, we want all that bullshit gone. We want it all out of here, okay? Get it all out of here, right? So even if you served your time, that still means that you can still get it reversed. We're going to give you the opportunity to have your life back, not be what the system created you to be, but we're going to give you an opportunity to become what God created you to be and give you your life back, okay? All of that shit that they did illegally and unconstitutionally, we want it all gone, okay? So if you are the victim, you can sign because it was a felony committed in your presence. If you are in prison and we're not able to get the information from you, if we're not able to get a signature from you, right? Because again, this is evidence. It is written testimony from an actual victim, which means that I have to collect the evidence, or someone with the authority to be able to do it, which would be one of the veterans, would have to collect it directly from you. You can't take that, brother, and put it in the mail after you signed it and allow for people that don't have the authority to be able to handle evidence, be able to handle that and still have it follow the rules of evidentiary procedures. So if you're in prison today and if we can't get the paperwork directly from you, then we're going to have to find another way to do it. One way would be if there is a power of attorney on the outside, if you have someone with a power of attorney, your wife or whoever, if they have a power of attorney, and it must be for civil action, because what we're doing is we are initiating a civil action, because it's not a criminal action until an indictment is handed down. It's a civil action as we request a grand jury to be convened to hold, to present this evidence of these criminal acts that are being committed by these state agents. That's what we're asking for, right? We're asking the magistrate to convene a grand jury and to investigate this evidence and to issue a true bill of indictment consistent with the crimes that have been committed. So it's a civil action initiation right now, and that's what it will be. So if your family member has a civil action, you're sitting in prison, then they can sign for it because they're able to act as your representative and sign to initiate a civil action when you tell them, yes, this occurred in my presence. But if we don't have either one of those, then it's going to be very, very difficult because 500,000 of these, again, I want in person. We need to follow the proper rules of evidentiary procedures for the first 500,000. I need 500,000 of these that I receive, or one of these veterans that are reinstated, that they receive directly. And when they do receive those directly, then that means that would be valid. The rest of them, all you guys in prison, we will permit you to send these out, right? But don't be surprised if that prison doesn't allow you to send it, okay? But we're going to do everything we can, because all 2.9 million of you can all get behind this. All 2.9 million of you sitting in prison right now can all be a party to this. Anyone who's been charged with a crime, you know as well as I do that your liberties have still been deprived, that your freedoms have still been taken away, even though you're never found guilty of anything, even though they dismissed your case, you still are suffering from the bullshit that they brought against you. That means that you still need to have your life restored because it was illegally and unconstitutionally taken away. This is all the stuff we're going against, okay? If you've been charged with or convicted of a crime by the United States justice system or a system subjected to the jurisdiction thereof, you can file a writ or an affidavit on your behalf for the crimes committed against you. You can put that in my control, and I can carry it back. And when we have enough of these, that court will hear this case, and I will easily argue on your behalf and secure your original liberties that have been deprived to you by this government. Okay, so that's where we're at. As soon as I have the money, we're releasing the affidavit. I believe that I had a friend that was working on finishing up the website today, and so I'll be reaching out to him. But if the money's there, then continue to watch. But this affidavit, the form should be released. We have it in JOT form, which is an electronic form that you can fill out electronically, and it will self-populate. And then we have another form that has an instruction sheet with just blanks where you can write it in, fill it in, and so on. Every single one of you are going to have to get me 3 copies of these, okay? 3 copies, and you're going to have to sign them in blue ink, okay? So I understand that some of you might have, limited ability to be able to access printers or whatever else. And those of you that are in prison, I'm sorry, you guys. I know that you're going to have to handwrite these, but nonetheless, I need 3 copies of these from all of you. 3 copies, signed in blue ink, and then sent out to me, okay? And if we get this, guys, we're going to bring this whole shit down, okay? We're going to bring it all down, all right? So I'm going to step off here. I have a couple meetings that I got to get caught up on here, and but I'm going to try to get on again here later on. But I believe that I have what I need now to be able to get started. Please continue to donate, you guys. Please continue because every cent that I get is going to the travel costs and whatever else. But thank you guys so much. I think that we're there, and I can't wait to get on the road and get this done and get my life back, because all of you got your life back. So how can any one of us claim to be free when so many around us are not free? I can't live in a world of that kind of delusion. So I'm not going to claim my freedom until I've ensured that everyone around me is free as well. So I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for everything you've done, and God bless you. Please continue to share, and together we shall be free. Thank you.